Good evening and welcome to round 8 of the 1974 Champ Car Series, hosted by the International Simracing organization, coming to you tonight from the Michigan International Speedway. A super speedway, very high speeds, and quite a few bits and pieces to be seen and added over the course of the evening, I suspect. But me in the booth is Jonatan Acerclinth. Unfortunately, due to a late incident with real life intervening, I was supposed to have Richard Coxon with me in the booth tonight, but unfortunately he has been hindered in with other things, and Jason very promptly tells me it's not a super speedway. I sincerely apologize, Jason. It's simply what I was told by other drivers ahead of this event. But talking about the track, let's have a quick look at how she is turning out for this evening. The Michigan International Speedway, a 2-mile D-shaped oval, and our drivers will be going around it 125 times, which will equal 250 miles. And as we are waiting for qualifying to get underway, I believe qualifying is a few minutes still into the future. Let's have a quick look at the points distribution and standings for this event and ahead of this event. The 250-mile points awarding goes as first, gaining 500 points. Second, receiving 400 points. Third, 350. Fourth, 300. Fifth, 250. And sixth, 200. Then the 7th placed driver receives 150 points, and then it drops by 25 all the way but down to the last points paying position, being 12th. And if we also have a small gander at the standings after round 7, David Yates has taken the lead in the championship, but it is mighty tight indeed. David Yates sits on top at 2,100 points. Cesariusz Szlapinski lies second on 2,000 points, only 100 points in it at the moment. Jakob Fredriksson, the ever-consistent Swede, has proven very consistent indeed in this series so far. 1,860 points for himself. Thiago Canola, a American open-wheel specialist, one might dare to call him, lies fourth on 1,460 points. And Peter Lavac rounds out the top 5 on 960 points. Should though be noted that Jakob Fredriksson might do a late race start this evening due to a real-life situation for himself. But otherwise, as far as I'm aware, all those 5 drivers and more will be driving in this evening's event. Also, while we wait for qualifying, what is coming up here at ISO before the summer break? We have 2 events left. First, we have a Lucas Vidra Trophy event coming up, the Formula Truck Santa Cruz do Sol. A fairly technical but also nicely sweeping track with free practice starting at 2000. Yes, it does. My apologies. I'm bit of a brain fade moment. Free practice starts at 2000 CET, and that is next Sunday, July the 19th. At the moment we don't have a broadcast lined up for that, but if we don't have a live broadcast, you can very happily expect a event replay of some kind. Also, with regards to the autumn series, keep an eye on the forum, as there may be updates upcoming in the next week or so of what will be happening during the autumn season at ISO, as well as obviously what's going to be our flag series for 2021. So keep an eye on the forums. And our final event before the summer break of August, Grand Prix de Belgique, the Belgian Grand Prix 1991 Formula 1, round 11 of 16 on Sunday, July the 26th, with the green light for the race being shown at 2000 CET, that's 2 weeks from today. And also a couple of updates to this series, the USAC 1974. The tires have received a small update. They are now more similar to how the 1971 Formula 1 cars are behaving, as far as I'm aware. You will have seen those racing at Alton Park a few weeks ago, with quite a few drivers actually very happy with that, and from what I've heard, the drivers are fairly happy with how the cars are behaving in this updated rendition as well, but a little bit apprehensive about how the engines will behave. There is also new aero effects on the rear wing and the body, also making their way in, trying to update it to be more like the real life series, obviously. And the biggest update, and what is making our drivers a little bit apprehensive, we now have a 3-stage turbocharger with a boost knob in the cockpit. So now our drivers, while going around, can actually decide how much power they want the engine to produce. But also with that, with more turbocharging, more fuel going into the engine, it also heats up more, so the danger of damaging the engine and maybe not making the full race is obviously there. The longer the race, the bigger the danger of running at too high a boost setting. How that will affect tonight's race, we don't know yet, since it hasn't been ran. But with any luck and good fortune, the racing will be fantastic. As I notice now that the server has just changed over to the qualifying session. So let's see if we can't make our way onto the track cameras. Here we are. So I just need to make a quick adjustment. There we are, so I also can see a little bit of what's going on. Let's see if we have anyone on their way out yet. Possibly Eric Plana. Could also be, with the way the internet works, there may be a bit of synchronization going on. But yeah, hope you're all looking forward to this, and we're still very happy to be able to bring you a little bit of racing action, while I know that some of the real life series has started up very recently. We're still very happy to be able to bring you this, and hopefully, yet again, we'll put on a good show and you'll all enjoy yourselves in this event. As we now have the green light, let's see if anyone is early out of the pits. They are Bruno Chacon and Juha Boss. I know Juha Boss was quite high up in the warm-up and practice sessions ahead of qualifying, so let's take a ride on board with him on his hot laps. And if you would be so kind as to let me know how the sound levels work when we're on the car now. I've had a bit of a play around, and hopefully it'll work better now. As Juha heads into turn 3 and 4. Across the start-finish straight and into 1. As we can see, someone has had a bit of a moment coming out of the pits, presumably. Ooh, very high indeed. Now coming out of 2. It's what seems like a pretty good exit. Then there's a very, very long back straight into 3. A bit of a lower line in 3 and 4 viewer, coming out wide though on the exit, trying to bring as much speed as possible down the start-finish straight to finish his first flying lap. And he places himself 4th at the moment with Alberto Ibañez, who actually set the fastest time in practice as far as I'm aware, at the very front at the moment. A little bit lower still, thank you very much. Just give me a quick moment here. So let's try it with that. Let's see if we can find anyone else out on a presumable hot lap. Cesariusz Lapinski actually on his way out of the pits. So let's see what he can do for AJ Foyt Enterprises and the Coyote. Cesariusz is one of those drivers that actually was a little bit more apprehensive about how the car's handled, but as far as I'm aware, he's now way more accustomed to after doing a few more laps, and you see him going very low indeed in 1 and letting the car run very neatly up the track coming out of 2. Again, a very low line coming through 3 and 4, so let's see what his first flying lap will end up being. Oh, he goes quickest by almost 0.2 of a second. Wowee, that was very quick indeed. Very neatly done. Seeing Jakob Fredriksson actually making an appearance already in qualifying, so I will take that as a sign that he will be making the full race, which is very nice to see considering where he's seated in the championship. And here comes Thierry Canola to finish his second flying lap, I believe. He does indeed, and he goes second quickest. Very good lap indeed there for the Brazil-American. Let's see what Jakob Fröksson can do in his number 24 red machine. Ooh, a little bit squirrely there. Either the tire's not quite up to temperature, or that car is a little bit loose in the setup department. Ooh, a little bit squirrely in 3 and 4 as well. Let's see what the first lap ends up being. Goes right down to the bottom of the track, and he only goes 16th fastest. So last minute run in qualifying, possibly feeling that that was a little bit disappointing maybe for him. And we can see Gabriele Del Piccolo has picked up a, what I believe is a one-off drive in a number 89 machine for this particular event for John Martin. Oscar Noganowski is back as well for Eastern Racing Associates, number 63. Yes, we have moved over to the warm-up session. 10 minutes left until the race starts. And since we're waiting, did that seem okay with both the trackside and the onboard lap there when we were on board with Cesarius for his lap? Just want to make sure we have it sorted, hopefully before the race starts. So that I'm able to bring you the best of the action, hopefully without me being completely overthrown by the engine sounds. Another one-off drive in the meantime is John Team for the Pat Patrick Racing Team, the number 40 STP sponsored car. John has said he's not entirely certain how the event will go for him. He's not sure he will want to start, but at least he's giving it a go before he decides, which is very nice to see. And Jules Bouchard is running in the Eldon Rasmussen number... that's number 58, the yellow McLaren, I believe that is. And also David Junten, the number 45. Tiago Canola now coming around to finish a lap. It looks like he has David Yates for company out on track. He has indeed. And there is David Sabre as well. David Yates running very wide. So you can see David Yates pulling past Sabre. You can actually see a bit of sparks coming out from underneath Canola's car on the right hand side. He went and 4. Oh, and there goes the smoking engine. Was that David Yates blowing up at the end of the front straight? It looks like it was. So clearly giving it a go, see how high the temperature can go, presumably. Hopefully his team will be able to sort that car out before the race actually gets underway. Slapinski goes quickest in this warm-up session. And he has Francois Remen for company. Francois Remen actually up in 5th position at the moment in this warm-up. I think he'll be fairly happy with that. He's generally struggled a little bit this year with AMS, specifically the connection side, not necessarily all with AMS, but has been on the up in the last couple of events, so hopefully Francois will be able to have another good one and put in a maybe even a points ping position, which I think he would be very happy with if that were to happen. I believe that was Ray Riddle having done a bit of a practice stop, and looks like, would that be Jules Bouchard possibly having a bit of a moment in pit lane, trying to get into his pit stall for a practice stop. It's very easily done. These cars arrive into pit lane at one hell of a knot of speed, and the brakes are shall we say, simply not as good as the modern day equivalent is. Dave Miller up in the top 10 at the moment in this warm-up session. Let's jump on board with Jonatan as he tries to chase after the 3, now 4 cars up ahead on track. As you can see there, his fellow Swede Ferguson coming out of the pits after a practice stop, and obviously practice exit coming out of the pit lane. Ahead of this event, I was actually down in the, what I suppose we could call the virtual paddock, and had a bit of a talking to a few of our drivers, and from what I've been told, the one with the biggest balls will probably be going for the win. It's very difficult to declare anyone a favorite at this point, considering there are a few changes and updates, but according to the drivers anyway, the one who has the biggest bravery and dares try to push the engine a little bit further than anyone else will most likely be going for the win. And since the race is 125 laps in total, our drivers will need to average at least 32 laps for 2 stints to be able to make it on to the finish on 3 stops. If anyone were to finish lap 30, 29, that would be a terrible situation for them, and they would highly likely need a yellow or to make a splash and dash towards the end of the race. The general fuel stint that the cars can do is somewhere between 30 and 35 laps. These estimates mainly determined by the boost and gearing settings that the drivers and teams have decided to go with. What will or can, we don't know yet if we will have any yellows in this event, but say that we get a yellow after, let's say, 58 to 59 laps. That's where we will see a cat among the pigeons, so to speak, where you probably won't be able to make it on just one more stop without a bit of help. But will anyone take that chance of possibly making it from there? Or even more so, with maybe 37, 38 laps left in the race, we see a yellow. Will anyone take a chance right then and there? As we see David Yates with a loose moment coming in to 1. That's very strange to see. I've not seen David make that many mistakes, but that's one for the books, possibly trying a bit too hard, seeing what works and what doesn't ahead of the race, as we have 45 seconds left until the race is about to go ahead, and Schlapinski still quickest in this warm-up session. So obviously, looking at the times at the moment, as the warm-up session comes to a close, with a few cars still out on track, I would hazard to guess that the drivers with the highest chance, at least based on the performance here, is Schlapinski, Canola and Jakes. But we have seen Ogonoski and Yannick obviously put on some very good drives. Yannick especially at around Hungaroring in the F191 last weekend put in an amazing drive to end up winning that particular event. Let's see, as we are just waiting for the drivers to make their way onto the grid. Aha, there we are. Pardon the little bit of a wait for everyone to get onto the grid. So, in pole position we have Thiago Canola, second for Schlapinski, third for Ibañez for the Wells Parnelli Jones Racing Team. Ray Vidal with quite a bit of speed around this track for Wild Motor lines up fourth. Fifth for David Yates as everyone tries to get going on this very banked track. Brian Yannick lines up 6th for Robert L. Fletcher and Dave Miller 7th for Al Lacuasto. Juha Boos lines up 8th for Leader Card Races with David Saber 9th for All-American Races. Vel Spinelli Jones Racing Team 2nd car, Jason White in 10th. Ogonowski in 11th, Gabriele Del Piccolo in 12th, François Remen in 13th. 14th and looks to be starting from the grid is Filippo Marazzi. Jakob Fröksen is lining up 15th with Jon Team in 16th, David Jun 17th. Jules Bouchard and also looks to be starting from the grid in, from the pits in 18th. Gun Chacon lines up 19th with Eric Plana 20th. And final driver on the grid. So 20 cars will try to tackle this 250-mile race, 125 laps around Michigan International Speedway. It looks like green flag is out and the race is underway. It looks like Canola will most likely be able to hold on to the lead, as it looks like everyone, at least for the time being, will be able to make it through 1 and 2 okay on this opening lap. One of the dangers that drivers have actually also been worried about is being in the lead, and Thierry Canola has that position at the moment, as we can see behind a big battle pack with Dave Miller making a great start up to 4th already. It's a very, very good start indeed. Oh, someone has to spin in behind. I think that's Eric Plana. It is indeed. I believe he will have been able to keep it off the wall. At least it looks like he'll be able to keep going as he gets back going now. What has happened with that battle pack? Brian Yannick now up into 4th, with Miller dropping to 5th, and a whole gaggle of cars in behind. Everyone trying to jostle for a good position for this opening half of the race, to try and be in position to challenge towards the end. Ooh, now you have Boos up the inside of Ogonowski. Ogonowski, another driver who's had a very good start from 11th up to 6th position. With Ibañez now almost 3 wide, going through 3 and 4 as Eric Plana, a lap down, tries to get out of the way without causing too much hassle. Jakob Fröksen there, trying to go up the inside, almost 4 wide down the start-finish line stretch. Was Eric Plana very wide there, but I think he was able to hold it off the wall there as well. It's good to see. Was side by side Ray Riddle and Jakob Fröksen. Ray Riddle has dropped back at the start, down to 12th. He started in 4th, if I'm not mistaken, so that's quite the remarkable drop in positions. Not quite sure what happened to him, possibly taking it very easy early on here as Fröksen makes a move on Saber. Going on to lap 7 out of 125. Jason White obviously wanting to have a good race at his home event. Now we're up right behind his teammate. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up trying to help each other along. with Yannick now trying to pull away from Miller and Ogonoski as Ogonoski looks up the inside. Looks like Dave Miller for the moment, with a bit of help from the craft of Yannick's car, will be able to hold on. But up in front, Canola and Schlapinski looks to more or less be, well, Yates holding on as well. All of them running 1, 2, 3. Then a bit of a gap down to Bouchard, the lap down. Then it's Yannick and the rest of the top 10 runners, with a trailing group of 3 behind them, trying to keep up as well as they can. And no yellows, Pascal asks in the broadcast chat if the yellows are off. They aren't, but there were a little tweak in the files. I believe it was where someone makes a bit of contact with the wall there. Was that Jules Bouchard possibly was lapped a lap and a half ago? Just scraped the wall by the looks of things as Juha Boos go past Dave Miller and up into 5th position for the time being. There were a small alteration in the files, I believe, for round 5 or 6, where we tried to fine-tune so that if there were one car spinning with no real danger, it wouldn't throw a yellow. Similarly to how they wouldn't throw it in real life if there were one car spinning and it was completely out of harm's way. Now it's more towards where if, for example, you make contact with the wall, you drop a wing, for example, so that's debris on the track, there is likely to be a yellow. If there's a multi-car collision, then it's highly probable that there'll be a yellow. And good evening to everyone watching. Berlin, Pascal, Angel May, are those I have seen for the time being. Oh, as there's a bit of a more scuffling in behind. That's between Saber, Fröksen and Junt, still going at it. Saber and Fröksen especially, and Junt starting further back in the grid, probably trying to settle in and get into the groove of running these cars once again. It's been a couple of weeks since the last time we drove these, and Gabriele Del Piccolo just about in draft range, I believe, to try and keep up. Yes, I believe someone has just spun. I believe that's a car a lap down. Or possibly just half a spin. Unless that's Juha Boos. Oh, it is! Juha Boos is out! Oh, dearie me. That's unfortunately a very early exit for Juha. My sincerest apologies, due to a slight oversight in my settings, I can't bring up a replay. Oh, as David Saber has blown his engine! So David Saber blows his engine as well, so David Saber drops out of what I think by then was a top 10 position. And unfortunately, as Cesare Schlapinski sets the fastest lap of the race down to the times he was doing in warm-up session. So unfortunately David Saber parks the car on the infield, and that's a retirement for him. Jon Team looks to be in a bit of bother. Don't know if he's had a spin or have been into the pits for a couple of repairs maybe. Jules Bouchard running a lap down, as is Eric Plana. And François Aremen has been into the pits for repairs as well. I saw him exiting via the pit road. And now it looks like it's 2 for the lead, with David Yates trailing 4.5 seconds behind. Let's see, the top 4 looks to be running more or less on their own, but we have Ogonowski and Miller trying to help each other, and Jason White and Ibañez, likewise the teammates, trying to work together, as is Ray Riddle and Ferguson and Junt, and they have actually caught up to the Vels Panelli boys. So let's see what happens now as they form a 5, make that what looks like a 6-car train, as Del Piccolo has caught up as well. So 6 cars now running together as we jump on board with Gabriele Del Piccolo. Have a look at this 6-car train and what goes on here for a lap or 2. Del Piccolo with a great run, dives up the inside of 2 cars there. Not sure he'll be able to make much use of it, but it was a great run nonetheless. That's one of the beauties of this circuit for sure. It's very, very wide indeed, with pretty much what looks like at least 3 lanes. I'm fairly sure you could probably make it 4 wide through the turns if you feel so inclined. See what happens. They have 7 seconds to catch up to the cars in front. So let's see what happens, whether these 6 drivers is able to work together and start to reel in the cars in front, or if they will be running into further time loss compared to the cars in front. As there goes Francois Remen, clearly with some pretty good speed, but unfortunately with some repairs, 2 laps down, and I believe, oh, he made contact with the wall again, and that's another spin. Not sure if he made contact with the inside barriers. Let's have a look at how his car is behaving. He's certainly taking it easy, going down to the grass. So clearly not all well there, but trying to get out of the way of everyone on the track. That's very commendable indeed. So I'll keep a watch out on that and see if Francois decides to continue, if that's the end of his race. As he is just coming out of 2 there. As we can see, Marazzi with a couple of cars a lap down to him, right up behind him. And now Junt has caught up to these guys as well, as Francois Remen now sitting, coming out of 2, so that looks like that might very well be the end of his race. So we jump on board with Ray Riddle, running now in 11th thanks to the draft. He looks up the inside. I don't think that's a serious move for position. I've seen him run the low line down the straight quite a few times, so I think that's just where he prefers to get out of the way. Now Junt diving for the bottom lane as Eric Plana running the high line there, trying to get out of the way. Very nicely done. So now here goes Ray Rideau as we jump back to Gabriele Del Piccolo, now running at the back of this battle pack. And it currently looks like these guys are losing out to the cars in front, so to Pogonoski and Miller specifically. Looks like Brian Yannick has some great pace. He's caught up to David Yates up in front, who has both Junta and White there looked a little bit loose. Coming into 3 and 4, and there goes Bruno Chacon. Wherever he came from, he's caught up as well. So now we have a 7-car fight here for the lower top 10 positions and last point paying positions. Let's follow this. Actually, Brian Yannick has made his way past David Yates there. I wouldn't put it past Yates to actually have let him go, and will now try to follow them. And we are closing into the first set of pit stops. Remember the fuel range of 30 to 35 laps for these cars. Again, dependent on boost and gearing settings for our drivers and teams. As I noticed there, I believe Ray Rideau's team has made a call for him to start preparing to head into pit lane. I hope he can make a few more laps still, because if he stops this early, there's no way he's making it on 3 stops. There goes Chacon and Del Piccolo, swapping positions once again. And look at this battle pack, this is great to watch. As everyone tries to find a little bit of clean air for their front wing. As Eric Plana has retired as well. I know Francois Remen had parked it. I didn't notice when Eric Plana retired, but that's a few laps ago. So unfortunately we now have 4 retirements: Plana, Remen, Saber and Boss. That's very unfortunate indeed, but that's the way it goes sometimes in these races. As Ferguson is now the one left out to drive by the looks of things. Ooh, as White understeers and almost makes contact with Jacob going into 3. He just about was able to avoid each other there. And it's definitely such that Ogonoski and Miller is working well together and pulling away from this battle pack. And considering how these guys are jostling for position, it's no great wonder indeed. And now suddenly Ray Rideau is at the front of this pack. As we jump on board with him and look back at the, I believe it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars in behind him. Now it looks like to be nearly 3 wide in behind. I believe Junt doesn't quite have the overlap on Ibañez, but Ferguson certainly has a bit of an overlap, or had, on Junt. The draft definitely helps quite a bit around this track. With, I believe Juha Boos said he had a top speed of 340 odd kilometers an hour, which I believe is about 230 odd miles an hour. So it looks like Jason White, Chacon, and Alberto Del Piccolo gets slightly held up there by one of the lap cars. The last remaining yellow would be Jules Bourrard. Obviously doing his best to stay out of the way, but with 7 cars running this time together, it's no easy feat to try and get out of the way for sure. And here comes Fredriksson, catches up to Ray Riddle. So Ray Riddle looked to try and open up a little bit of a gap, but that's immediately shut down by the cars in behind. Oh, and looking at that time drop, that must mean our first pit stopper, or pit caller, is Thiago Canola. Will anyone else head into the pits, I wonder, on this particular lap? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong pedal. There we go. I was trying to zoom out. So, Thiago Canola leaves the pit lane in 13th. That's 1 lap down to the leader. Let's see, here comes another one into the pits. That's his teammate, that's Brian Yannick then, coming into the pits on lap 33. So, looks like everyone has made the fuel range at this particular moment. Oh, Marazzi has blown his engine! Or possibly a turbo. That white smoke seems to call more for a turbo than an engine, but either way it looks like Filippo Marazzi is unfortunately going to be out of this race as he comes to a standstill on the back straight. It's very unfortunate indeed, as the yellow comes out as well. So that will save quite a few, as the yellow is actually race to yellow. So Dave Miller currently in first place. Let's see if he decides to dive in at the end of this race, as there is Marazzi's car. So presumably, unfortunately, Marazzi has dropped some kind of fluid onto the track as Dave Miller heads into the pits as well. So Jakob Fredriksson now comes into the pits as well, as does Jonatan, Ibañez, Ray Riddle, Bruno Chacon, Schlapinski resumes the lead. Del Piccolo goes into the pits, Junt and White, I believe White very near, very close to missing the pit entry there. As now the yellow is out, and Schlapinski, as I said, resumes first position ahead of Thiago Canola. David Yates in third. Let's see who comes out of the pits in fourth. Brian Yannick comes round, and it's Dave Miller in fifth. Ogonowski in sixth. Then we have Jakob Fredriksson coming out of the pits in 7th, with Bruno Chacon in 8th, Ibañez in 9th, Jonatan in 14th, Ray Riddle 10th, Junt 11th, Jason White in 12th, 13th for Del Piccolo. Here comes Jules Bourrard, who I believe may have been our last pit caller for this particular moment. No, Schlapinski is in again. So maybe not sure if he can make it, so he decides to make a early splash and dash to make sure that he has only 2 stops to make, but that's quite interesting. I think he stopped within the fuel range, but maybe he knows something we don't. And either way, that means Thiago Canola now picks up the lead in this race. Very difficult to say. Let's see, we have one more yellow lap, so let's actually have a look at the trivia question for you this evening, so you have something to ponder. As well as what I noticed you're discussing at the moment. So, the question for you this evening is, in August 1991, which NASCAR driver tested a Chip Ganassi IndyCar at Michigan? Was it A, Davey Allison? Was it B, Jeff Bodine? Or was it C, Bill Elliott? We'll come back to this later in the broadcast. Let's head back to the track. I didn't see whether the safety car made any attempt to signal heading into the pits as of yet. It does indeed, so green flag is about to fly. As the green flag is out, the race is back underway. And Thiago Canola has the lead at the moment. Yates looking up the inside just a tad bit there. Possibly looking for a bit of clear air. As is everyone in behind. Ogonoski with a great restart. Goes around outside of Dave Miller there. So everyone's streaming past. Looks like everyone has survived the opening 2 turns of this restart. And now 1-2 for Robert L. Fletcher and that team as Yates runs a little bit wide. Oh, Ganoski! Wow, he saves it! Wow, what a save! Austin, that was one hell of a save. Really good job, man. That's probably as close as we'll see someone coming to crashing without crashing in this race. Wowee, that was one crazy ride for the Canadian. As Jason White there makes his way past El Piccolo, I believe, at least he looks to have the pace to go round outside there. Looking to try and catch up, back up to this battle pack that he was a part of before the yellow came out. So top 3 running together here. Robert L. Fletcher boys with David Yates for Dick Simon Racing in tow. And then as we are on board with Alberto Ibañez, the rest of the battle pack in behind from 4th to 11th, with Schlapinski in 11th at the moment. As he's actually looking up the inside, I believe he's already up to 10th, as he made his way past Junt on that occasion. Bruno Chacon all the way up into 6th position. A really good race so far for Bruno. I really hope he'll be able to continue this form. This is great to watch, actually, up to 5th at this time. Actually now in the middle of the road with no draft. That's probably going to spell him dropping a few positions from 5th to 9th, maybe even 10th by the end of this lap. Actually make that even 11th. This is one very hectic battle pack, as now Dave Miller up the inside, trying to make it 3 wide down the start-finish straight, 3 wide into turn 1. Ooh, almost understeer, so I think he may have even scratched wheels there with Ibañez, but both of them survive for now. And the battle clearly continues in this very hectic pack. Deary me. This is really good fun to watch. Just a little bit in behind. White and Del Piccolo ain't that far behind, so they could very easily pick up the draft and join this pack, and we would have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 car battle from 4th down to 13th, if that were to happen. Well, I must say Slapinski has gotten up into 4th there, and it looks like he is opening up a bit of a gap. Clearly that Coyote working very well. And Cesarius ain't a slow driver by any means, so definitely putting that car to good use. That's now Ray Miller up into 5th position for the Val Motor team. Look at that, very nearly now caught up for White and Del Piccolo. So that would make it a 9-car fight now that Slapinski has gotten 3 and open up a more or less 3-second gap to the pack behind. But obviously approximately 11 to 12 seconds he is, I would imagine, behind the top 3 drivers at the moment, and since they are drafting off each other, I think it'll be very difficult for Slapinski to catch up in this particular stint. It now almost looks like there's a 2-3 group sets of drivers here, unless actually the cars behind draft up very, very quickly indeed on the front stretch, and the group packs up once again, I should say. Although it seems to be a little bit tricky for them to stay right in behind them consistently. Ooh, Fredriksson and Junt. He made a little bit of contact on the exit of 4 there. Noticed Junt got very squarely on the exit. I think both of them are okay though. Although Fredriksson very wide through 1 and 2 that time. Presumably dropping just a 10th or so as he drops behind David Junt at the moment. So we now jump on board with Gabriele Del Piccolo looking ahead at the battle pack. And to see what the Italian can do from 13th position. If that got through. Clearly my voice doesn't seem quite up to the task of this, but we'll soldier through and make the best of it as we can. So it looks like there's a couple of position changes up ahead. Dave Miller now actually at the front of this pack. And Junt up into 8th, Chacon in 9th at the moment. And White and Del Piccolo just about holding on to the draft. Ooh, that's a very close call. Ravidal pinched down to try and straighten up the exit, but he had David Junt up his inside. That got very close indeed, but I don't think any contact was made, and both are able to continue for now. So it looks like lapped traffic is just about to start and play into this, as Jason White now has, by the looks of things, fully caught up to the pack, and I can't think of any reason why Del Piccolo won't do so very shortly as well. Ooh, oh no, 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 no! Oh dearie me. That looks like Bruno Chacon ran wide, and unfortunately that's contact with Austin Ogonowski, who's spinning down the track with a lost rear wing. Oh, and he just about makes contact with the pit wall. That presumably was quite heavy contact with outside barriers, and unfortunately Ogonowski is out. So after that fantastic save 10 or so laps ago, Austin unfortunately is forced to retire on lap 54. That's very unfortunate indeed, but again, that's unfortunately the kind of thing that can happen in these kind of close battle packs. Occasionally one car gets it wrong, as does Ray Riddle up ahead there. Looks like he possibly got a little bit loose on the exit. We are closing in on the presumed second set of stops, which I reckon will be from around lap 50. Does he make that 63, 64? Depending on how frugal the drivers have been able to be during these second stints. As Dave Miller currently doing a great job up in 5th position, as is Ibañez, putting in another good showing for Welsh Panelli Jones Racing Team. And I must say the joker in the pack at the moment is Bruno Chacon, 9th position for Lindsay Hopkins Racing Team. Certainly driving very well today, and with any bit of luck we'll pick up quite a nice little points haul. Ooh, oh no, 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 another bit of contact! And Ibañez is off the track! Oh dearie me. That's very, very unfortunate. It looks like that very much looked like two cars looking for the same piece of track. And I believe, unfortunately, Alberto Ibañez will be out of this race as well. Let's give the top trio a bit of camera time. They haven't been shown on camera for quite a while, but they are still running together. Yannick Canola and Jakes. Looks like they are trying to work together to keep Ślepinski at bay, but Ślepinski, despite running on his own, is actually catching up to these three. It's very, very impressive indeed for him to be able to do that. Although he has about half the difference left to try and catch up. As Jonatan will now make it up into 12th position very shortly here, into the last points paying position. And just over a lap ahead of him is Jules Bouchard, who will make it up into 13th in a few laps time. It does look like the
User joined your channel.
Big battle pack that we saw earlier has been broken up with those incidents we saw just a few laps ago. Now we have Miller, Fredriksson, Junt and Chacon running together. Ray Riddle about a second behind, trying to catch up and pick up the draft, as is Jason White and Del Piccolo. Just another second or so behind, a couple of seconds behind Ray Riddle. As we are joined by Alberto Ibañez. Really sorry to see that, Alberto. Looked like you had a good race going up until that point.
Well, it was dicing a lot. It was something that was really stressful, but it was fun anyway. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shame to have to go out in these circumstances, but, well, what can you do?
As I said at the time, it's just one of those things that can happen in such a close battle pack. Only takes either a bit of miscommunication or someone getting it slightly wrong. And
yeah, basically I was trying to stay on my lane, and I think that Bruno probably entered a bit too hot and slid upwards into me. Not a big hit, but it's enough when you're with the car leaning in the corner. Well, it's enough to obviously send you flying.
Very much so. So the cars are actually that hard on the limit around this track. I knew there were very high speeds, but I didn't think they were quite that hard.
Yeah, well, we're basically here with the big problem here are the aerodynamic effects. You need to be very much on top of the car all the time. And, well, I was watching the leaders fly away, and I was wondering what kind of boost they were using. I guess they were using intermediate boost because they have a really great race pace. But you gotta wonder if the engine is going to take all that punishment. They are probably at some points like going to the reduced boost so as not to damage it too much. But it's going to be interesting because engine damage can happen any moment, so we'll have to stay tuned to that.
For sure, it'll certainly be an interesting development. We've seen a couple of drivers ran foul of engine trouble. Saber and I believe it was Marazzi had engine woes. Saber on lap 13 very early, and Marazzi just around the first set of pit stops. And talking of pit stops, we're just a few laps away from the drivers starting to head in for their second stops.
We should be, yes. We are in lap 65, and I was on low boost all the time in the previous stint, and I could do like 5-6 laps more than the leaders, and I was also very lucky because just when I had to pit in, we had that yellow flag. So we'll see what happens this time. But, well, yeah, I mean, they are likely going to be entering the pits in something like 4 laps, maybe? Something like that. Not much more than that.
Around 64 to 70-ish for when most of our drivers would be heading in. Maybe a bit prolonged due to the yellow flag, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, and Schlapinski is out. I completely missed that.
I don't see the replay anymore. Okay, now I have it. He was overtaking John Tim. And what happened to him? He was... No, maybe that's a disco. That's a disco because the car basically disappeared.
Oh, no.
Well, that's a shame.
Of all things to fall foul of in sim racing, I reckon that's probably the worst one.
Yeah. And we've heard our share of that lately.
Indeed, and that can probably be attributed to the current situation all around the world.
Yes, Sunday evening is a moment when people are basically watching internet at home, movies, Netflix and all that. So, but anyway, it seems to be, I hope for the viewers, a very interesting race. Because you can tell that there are many fights around. Well, this is basically a full throttle track. You're going nearly full throttle all the time, although I was having to cut in the corners many times just to ensure I was not sliding into the upper lane, not suffering too much from washout from the aero effects. But you can see that the cars are dicing very closely. And I can tell you, it's very stressful. But I can imagine all those guys, they will be really willing to get a shower when they finish the race.
Yeah, I can certainly imagine that.
I'm happy to see that my teammate Jason is still there in 7th place. I hope that he has no damage and he's just lurking there, waiting with a hand in the boost knob to give them an unpleasant surprise to the guys in front at the end of the race. So go, Jason, go.
As far as I'm aware, I haven't seen him have any contact as such. At most, maybe a glancing blow, as a few others have been.
Oh, I see that the leader and the cars behind are right now signaling pits.
And here
So
comes
let's see.
Yates.
There goes David Yates. Yes. What happened to Thiago and where are Thiago and Brian Janik?
They are down in 9th and 10th, so I believe they
Okay,
on the previous lap.
Yes, they pit the previous lap. Yes. So let's see if stretching the pit stop one lap more is going to help David Yates, who doesn't seem to be very much aligned on his pit box. But yeah, he's being serviced, which is good.
Jason White heading into the pits, I noticed there in the background.
And David Yates is now losing positions, obviously, because of the pit stop. He's coming there. Okay, lights up the tires. There he goes.
And there goes Canola, I believe, is the leading Robert L. Fletcher. So Brian Yannick looks to have lost quite a bit of time. Now he comes into view.
Yeah, Brian Janik is 9th, right behind David Yates. Though, watch out, because Brian is coming with a run, and David Yates has not yet fully accelerated out of it. He must be now on full boost, trying to extract the maximum out of that void. He's going to make it barely, but he's on cold tires, so watch out on the outside, Brian Janik. There is David Yates on cold tires sliding upwards. And I think Brian maybe got it. I don't know if he's going to overtake. Let's see what happens. Yes, he does, because at this point, if you're not going to get enough of an advantage to break the slipstream, then it might not even pay off. But Brian decided to go into the lead. He's not afraid of it. And probably he's inviting David Yates to work together so that both can catch up with Thiago Canola, who is having a really incredible pace here. We will see what his engine does towards the end of the race. I think this is a prospective race for everybody because the engines are, well, we have now all the 3 stages boost. And obviously, they have already caught up with some people unaware. And we're going to see what happens now. I'm curious to see what Thiago Canola's lap times are.
He's been running fairly quick from what I've seen, but a bit of a cut
Fairly
among
quick,
the
yes. I
monsters.
can tell you for sure that he's not running on the lowest boost. He's running on medium boost. He's probably trying to keep his engine temperatures.
Oh, no, Dave! Dave Miller has had a crash coming out of the pit lane.
Oh, he's upside down,
Ooh,
but he ends in the infield.
Is avoided by Ray Riddle.
Yep. So what happened here? I'm looking at the replay.
Looks like he had a turbo kick possibly. And then ended up in the grass and had no way to control the car in the end.
He was being passed by Jacob. He went. Yeah. What happens is that he got into the banking too soon. Probably came a bit too hot out of the pits. He went into the banking, that unstabilized the car, sent it back to the grass, and from then on it's basically, well, ice skating country.
It's so unfortunate. He was having a great race up until that point.
And Bruno Chacon is now leading the race, although he's coming into this pit stop.
And that's interesting.
Right
I noticed
behind
he
him.
Was out in front for quite a while, and looks
Yeah,
like
he's going slow now. He's into the pits.
Looks like he's been running until he was on fumes there. He lost
And
quite
watch
a bit
out.
of time
Now
in the last
Thiago
lap.
Canola. Okay, now Thiago is now the leader again. Bruno into the pits. I think he glanced the pit wall.
We actually missed his pit stall. He's reversing to get it into his pit stall.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate. That's a few very valuable seconds around this track that he can ill afford to lose. But with all those pit stops, actually, your teammate has gained a position or two, up into 6th position now.
Yes, he is. He has been now followed by David Junt, who is happy to be there in the slipstream. That's typical David Junt, clever driving. That's something he usually does. He's not the guy who wants to be there doing the daring overtake maneuver and be there in the lead in the spotlight, but he prefers to be there waiting, lurking in the shadows, and then basically kill you when you least expect it towards the end of the race. I think they are both working together, trying to catch up with Jakob Fredriksson, who either did a quicker pit stop or maybe had a bit more luck with the lapped cars. I don't know.
It's difficult to say, but you have to say that Canola is flying at the moment, because now Junt and White gets the blue flag because they have the leader right behind them. So just over I say. It's about, would you say, 3/5 of the race done? Looks like Canola is about to lap the 6th place car.
Yep. Although it's going to be interesting if his engine is able to withstand this punishment. I think that he's basically taken a gamble. There's probably, he thinks there's not a lot to lose there. And he's going to be, well, look, I mean...
Oh, Jon Team has had a spin.
Whoops.
As they split the front stretch to try and avoid him. Oi, oi, oi.
Okay, he's making it back at speed. I think he didn't hit anything.
Didn't look like it. At least the time marks didn't go towards the walls. I think he just spun coming off the final turn maybe, and made it up to the middle of the track. Very sportingly ran the low line to let everyone coming at him room on the full banking, and now up to speed once again.
So yeah, that's Thiago Canola now. He's looking on the outside to gain momentum. Okay, they've caught up with Jakob Fredriksson. This is now a three-way battle, but they have the leader right behind them, who is trying now to... Okay, Thiago was clever there not to get in the way, because they were obviously going to make a move on Jakob. He's taking it easy there with the lapped cars. There he goes. He's staying very low all the time. I think he wants basically to protect himself from the movements and the battle that is going on around him.
It's certainly very possible.
He's on the inside now of David Junt, who obviously gives way. And he's locked perfectly right behind Jason. And now using the slipstream, probably a bit of extra boost, he's going to pass him. There he goes.
When White being a bit too cautious there, Junt trying to follow Canola through, and he's able to do so. So up into 4th position. Was White
this is classical David Junt movement, because he would not be dicing with Jason, but if the opening is there because the leader passed, he's going to certainly make his way through. And very careful always with his driving.
Very much so, and I'm sure now Jason White, knowing his experience of ovals, he'll try to hook on to that rear wing of Junt's machine, and they'll pull away from Fredriksson, who's already struggling to keep up with the pair ahead.
And Jakes is now overtaking Brian Janik in the lead, and mark my words, I think these two are basically coordinating on TeamSpeak to lead in turns, this small pack that they both have, and try to catch up better with the leader, who is, by the way, already 12 seconds in front. So certainly Thiago is not sparing any effort. He's not saving anything. He's probably on the medium race boost all the time. We'll see what happens to his engine, but well, I know I'm saying it many times, but I'm really curious.
It'll certainly be interesting to see how it all plays out.
So it seems that David Junt swiftly was able to stay behind Thiago Canola. He obviously saw that Thiago is quicker, and he went away with him, and he left Jason with Jakob there having their own fight. Although if you rise the boost a bit now, you have always a chance to catch up, and I think that's what Jason is doing.
Yeah, it certainly looks like he's at least giving it a fair go.
Yeah, and Jakob is happy to be there in the slipstream. He basically moves to the inside so that he can get a clean pass through the corner. And Jason, I can see that, yes, he's hitting 209 at the end of the straight, so I'm pretty sure he's using medium boost here, try to catch up and be with David Junt. But it's going to be quite hard because if Junt is able to follow Thiago, well, Thiago was obviously quicker than all the rest, so Junt got a very good hair to follow.
For sure. That's very true indeed. And obviously, he has 47.5 seconds if he wants to get up into the podium positions as it stands at the moment, which I think even trying to running with Canola is a bit of a tall task, but 4th position will do him very nicely indeed. So now
Thiago is stretching his lead even more. It's amazing.
that's some immense pace he's pulling out, but as always that cloud of the engine possibly giving out, we'll have to wait and see. As we're on board with Jason White looking back on the Viceroy rear wing on the red number 24 of Jakob Fredriksson. As we can see there, two completely different lines, but as Alberto mentioned, Jakob looking for the clean air in the corners and then using the draft down the straights.
Yeah, Jason likes over. I mean, Jacob has chosen very well his sparring partner here because Jason likes loose cars, and that's why he is always on the upper part of the track, okay? Because you have basically a car that if you wish it too much into the corner, it's going to lose the rear. That's why he is always on the higher side of the turn, because there's where the arc is bigger and you don't have to push so much on the steering wheel. Whereas in the case of Jacob, he probably has a more neutral car, so they can work very well together because they follow each other in the straights, but then when they arrive to the corners, basically Jacob slots one lane down and he's able there to follow Jason to the corner. And look at, because they both caught up with David Junt. And I can imagine what's going on here. David was on a higher boost to follow Thiago, but the engine got so hot that he probably decided to went one boost level down, and he immediately started to lose ground. He probably got scared of the temperatures that he was seeing.
Could also be, I suppose, that Canola has such a pace that he pulled away from Junt enough that Junt lost the draft, and seeing as Junt and Fredriksson has worked together, as I think there were a little bit of telltale smoke going into 3 there, so your call on the engine could very well be true.
Well, that's not the leader in any case.
No, but it looks like it was possibly coming from Junt's car. So
okay.
we're on board with Jakob Fredriksson, just going to watch from behind here for a moment, see if there's any smoke. Okay, so it looks like Junt, at least for now, is safe in terms of the engine temperature. As not far behind either is Ray Riddle, who's thrown up some pretty...
No, and there comes Brian
pace.
Janik together with David Jakes. It's their turn now to lap this field. Brian's lead there upwards at the exit. There goes Brian on the inside, followed by David Jakes, who must be very careful not to lose Brian. Yeah, these guys are basically working on medium boost. I can see that. I mean, you can tell the difference even in the straights. It's not just setup, it's the cars are quicker. So they're basically gambling it. we'll see what happens.
Indeed, and possibly, dependent on what happens, Jason White, Junt, Fredriksson and Ray Riddle could be in the box seat if it all goes downhill in the remaining 35 laps. Which also means we're closing in on the last set of pit stops.
That's true.
Of course, I believe the earliest they'll be able to make it on a last stop from here is around here, maybe a couple more laps, and then they'll be right on target to make it. So who will take the risk or gamble of a safety car coming out and catching them out a further lap behind? But with the possible added advantage, US, Bouchard and Ferguson there getting very close on the start-finish straight, as Ray Riddle now has fully caught up once again. Looked like he was dropping back a little bit, but gained it back up, possibly turned the boost up just a tiny bit down that straight.
And it seems that Bruno Chacon is signaling a bit. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but he has the pit stop request on, but he's the only one.
He's running low down the back straight, so it could be he might be the first pit caller. He ran very long on the last stint, so I wouldn't put it past him pitting early now and trying to find some kind of an advantage, especially if a late race yellow comes out and everyone else has to pit on the yellow. That would put Chacon way up there once again after having dropped back with his slightly unfortunate pit stop during the last pit stop cycle. And this quartet still running together and trying to work on each other and try to find whatever advantage they can find over each other.
That's going to be really close at the end, because once we are approaching the end of the race, everybody will be getting mad in this group. They will be just toggling the boost knob. But on the maximum boost, the engine is very sensitive. I mean, you can be very quick, but in 3 or 4 laps, it's basically going to toast itself. So we're going to see who is going to jump the gun first.
I suppose you could sort of look at it in terms of the boost button as a sort of early push to pass, in the way that you could turn it up and get a bit of a run down the straight. The difference between the more modern push to pass over this is that the push to pass often doesn't risk the whole engine going up in plumes of smoke. Right here, the tiniest bit of mishandling of that, and you'll be cooking marshmallows by the side of the track.
Yeah, the push to pass is basically time limited. There are only so many seconds you can have. Whereas here you can leave it as long as you want. Only the engine is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and at some point it will basically melt. Now it's Jake's in the lead in their small group.
So looks like Yannick... Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yes, indeed. So looks like you were right. They are certainly swapping positions, but...
So Ray Riddle signaled pit briefly, but he seems to have unrequested it.
Could be that the game requested it for him, as it
Yes,
tends to do.
that's very likely.
And actually looking at this, it's quite remarkable to see that right behind Canola, up underneath his rear wing, is Bruno Chacon running with him in that Riley.
Yeah, he's 2 laps down, but he's able to follow him. Yes, probably on a higher boost. Bruno at this point. Well, Thiago is requesting the pit stop now, so I just hope that Bruno isn't too close, because
like
otherwise,
is staying well low, and Bruno gets the signal. Nicely done. So Canola in for his final pit stop, and let's see where he comes out, presumably in 3rd position. And also let's see what Yakes and Yannick decides to do about all of this.
Whoops.
Canola a little bit deep, but looks like he managed to find his pit crew.
Okay, Brian Yannick has also pit request now, which is not the case for David Yakes. And let's see the group behind: Jason White, David Junt, Jakob Fredriksson, Ray Ridal. None of them seems to have the pit stop requested. Thiago is now making his way out of the pit lane.
And Yakes continues, but Yannick heads into the pit lane. So Yakes possibly hoping to short fuel here and gain time back on Canola.
Oh, there's engine smoke now on the straight. Who's that? Who's that? There is engine smoke. I just saw it.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as well. Let's see.
Ah, it's John Team. John Team.
Dearie me.
Yep. That's an engine that is giving up.
I really hope he realizes he can do something about it, although it's not looking good.
So now David Jakes is the leader, but he hasn't stopped yet. Thiago Canola is now behind John Tim in the smoke trail.
And that'll be very unnerving indeed as Yannick comes out to the pit lane. It looks like another long stop for Yannick actually. It looks like Canola has lost more time to Yakes. Yakes was 49 seconds ahead of Canola by the time Yakes now has headed into the pit lane. So let's see where he comes out. This is...
So, and John Tim is now slowing down.
Oh dear. So that's presumably, unfortunately, a retirement.
Yes, he's parking it in the infield.
Oh, and Brian Yannick has crashed! So Jon Team has crashed and Brian Yannick crashed.
In the pits?
What?
Let's see, he was exiting the pits. I have the replay now. He was exiting the pits. He was on the banking already.
First lap out of the pits, coming onto the start-finish straight, I believe.
All right, there was a car crashing in front of him.
Oh no.
Was that Jacob?
Jakob Fredriksson. Yeah, Jakob Fredriksson is out as well. Oh
yeah, he crashed into Jacob. Ah, that's really unfortunate there. So, Jason White is now doing his pit stop, coming out of it. Thiago Canola still in the lead. The difference, the distance. Oh, Bruno is spinning. Look at that. Bang! He hits the wall there.
Ooh.
And he's without the rear wing.
So the question is, will a yellow come out due to that debris, or will the clerk of course decide to keep this race running?
It depends. It depends if he slows down too much.
Oh, look out, look out. Ooh. I think that was Jason White who just about managed to avoid Bruno Chacon. As Bruno is trying to get to the apron. Oh, and another spin due to the rear wing. Very...
and there's another car in the grass there in front.
Oh, that's David Junt! Is that a blown engine, I wonder? David Junt has retired as well.
So, Gabriele Del Piccolo coming now into the pits.
And
David Yates
Buchard
is now
already there.
33 seconds behind, 36, 37 behind Thiago. Wow, he seems to have lost momentum. Oh, no, sorry. It's a car behind him that is... Okay, who's in the pits? Gabriele Del Piccolo. Jason is now in 4th position, 3rd position now. A possible podium for him. Now that'd be awesome.
And I think, disregarded of the retirements in this race, if Jason gets a podium in his home race, he will be absolutely chuffed.
Over the moon. Ray Riddle coming out of the pits. That could be one of the main contenders for Jason. We'll see where he comes out.
Well,
Gabriele is actually in 4th position.
Yeah, Ray is actually a lap behind
And
Jason
Bruno has
White
made
somehow.
it back into the pits now, but I'm not sure how damaged his car will be. He gets the new rear wing.
Well, knowing Bruno, he will do whatever he can to safely drag the car to the finish. Though with, I believe we are over 75% of the race, so I would guess that he would be classified if he does finish. Retire at this point, but would be classified for points. But don't quote me on that, I could very well be wrong. So Thiago Canola in the lead, still with a bit of a cloud over that engine, considering we've seen others seemingly with a bit of issues with the engines as of the last few laps, but he only has 14 laps left to keep the engine going. David Yates in 2nd, likewise for him in terms of the engine. Jason White, the hometown boy, doing his job for Wells Parnelli Jones Racing Team very well indeed. Was probably looking to just finish the race from here, considering he also has a 35 seconds advantage over Gabriele Del Piccolo, one-off driver for this event. For John Martin, the privateer, in 4th position at the moment. Ray Riddle, who has proven to have some pretty good pace around this track, in 5th for Wild Motor. Bruno Chacon currently in the pits, dropping laps to Jules Buchard, so not sure if Bruno will come out of the pits in 6th. And Jules Buchard currently scored in 10th, 2 laps to go until he's scored in 7th or even 6th position. For Eldon Rasmussen in that McLaren.
No, Jules Bouchard is on a Rascar Atlanta.
What is a Rascar? My sincerest apologies.
No, it's a variant of the Atlanta. This car was called the Atlanta before, but then it was basically taken over by another team, and well, they christened it Rascar. It has the Void engine in the rear, but yeah, it looks alike, similar to a McLaren, but it's not a McLaren. It's just that when the Rascar was created, well, the Atlanta, as it was known formerly, was created, everybody was basically copying the McLaren.
Oh,
so, and Bruno Chacon is back on the track, and he seems to be able to keep, a reasonable pace there.
I think from here on in he won't be pushing too hard. He'll just
no. He'll likely be on low boost and go for the points.
And look at that! Despite me saying that Canola is probably going to try and keep the car safe from here on in, is actually pulling away from David Yates in 2nd still.
Yep.
Absolutely incredible.
So it seems. So points are cheap today, it seems.
Certainly, it's been a taxing one, both from a driving perspective. We've seen a couple of moments for our drivers, as well as taxing for the cars. And obviously we knew coming into this event that it would be an unknown ground to go onto, so to speak, and clearly it has proven quite difficult for drivers to know ahead of time how and when they would be able to push.
So there'd be now 8 laps to go, methinks.
I believe so, yes. And now the gap to Yates has stabilized by the looks of things, around 19, a little bit over 19 seconds.
Yeah, and I think that Thiago will likely be moving on slow boost setting now because there is no need to take any risk.
Oh, for sure not. As we can see from the pit entry camera, the car streaming past as Canola comes around once again. And now I believe 5 laps to go.
Yeah, and I would say that with the gaps that are now on track, and considering the attrition that the race has had so far, everybody's taking it really easy.
Possibly everyone having had a bit of a scare with seeing all the smoke and engine parts and the odd fluid out on track during the past 15 or so laps. It looks like Thiago is definitely taking it easy now, as David, who I can't imagine is going much harder either, is catching up a little bit. Not by much, but a little bit each lap now. And Jason White clearly taking it quite easy. I think Gabriele Del Piccolo is actually pushing a little bit because he's quite rapidly catching up to Jason White, but unless Jason has some kind of mishap in the remaining laps, there's no way Gabriele will be able to catch up.
Thiago taking it really easy now. The distance has dropped 3 seconds with David Yates. He's nursing the car to the finish line.
Well, I can't say that I blame him, considering what happened at Indianapolis to poor Thiago.
Yeah. He needs to really make it well here so as to be back in the points fight. Yes, last lap was 38.4. So that's something really, well, obviously very slow compared to what he has been doing all the race. He actually did 36 nearly dead at some point in the race, probably using the draft. But that's really remarkable.
Yeah, I believe that lap time was set when he was running along with David Yates and Brian Yannick after the first set of stops.
Yeah, it's likely the case. Yates is also taking it easy. He has very good options in this championship, so he probably wants to be sure that he can make it to get the points.
Very much so, as Thiago Canola rounds turn 4 and heads on to the final lap of this race.
There you go, white flag for him.
And from everything I've seen, he hasn't put a wheel wrong. And he will be handsomely rewarded with a win in this 250-mile event, as he comes out to the final turn, goes towards the start-finish line and gets the finish flag to take the win here in the Norton 250. A tremendous effort and a great drive. David Yates comes across the line to take second.
And the hometown boy in the last turn. I know his hands are not sweating. He must be really like...
He actually asked me to get to drive at Hockenheim to get a bit of preparation for this, and it's clearly paid off. Great job, Jason. Really happy for you.
Me too, Timmy. Good
really
job.
Good effort.
Gabriele took 4th and is now entering the pits, and Ray Ridal 5th. Bruno Chacon was able to hold on there and be 6th. And Jules Bouchard is going to see his constancy rewarded with the 7th place, which is quite nice with that Rascar Atlanta.
Certainly, that's a big effort and a great result for everyone who was able to make it to the finish of this race. Clearly a high attrition race, a lot of hard work for all the drivers, especially for that 8, 9, 10, 11 car battle pack that we saw during the midpoint of the race. But that's the finish of this race. Really good job from everyone, as we said. While we wait for our drivers to come in and look for an interview, hopefully we'll have at least Jason White joining us after his home race podium finish here, and maybe Thiago Canola as well. But while we wait, let's have a look at the trivia question that we had for you for this particular event. So, the question was, in August 1991, which NASCAR driver tested a Chip Ganassi IndyCar at Michigan? Was it A, Davey Allison? Was it B, Jeff Bodine? Or was it C, Bill Elliott? Would you have any guesses on that, Al?
No, actually not. I'll just venture Bill Elliott.
User joined your channel.
And that's the right answer. Congratulations, Alberto.
Well,
it was Bill Elliott.
Just because I heard it last.
Ah, okay.
All right, you were asking for the hometown boy. Good job, Timmy. That was nice. I'm really happy for you. I mean, you were deserving it.
We are indeed joined by Jason. Congratulations, Jason.
Oh man, this feels really good, especially after the last several rounds, which I didn't score any points in and just had miserable results, and just lots of bad luck. And I want to first of all thank Alberto for helping me with the setup, because he's the reason why I was able to keep good pace. I could tell early on that people were not watching their boost very closely, and they were eating up a lot of fuel. And I was like, well, I'm just going to hang back here and get a few more laps. And I think that made the difference, getting me the podium. Also, maybe whatever happened to Brian at the end there, which is unfortunate. But I just didn't have anything for David or Thiago today. They, as usual, they were in a class of their own, and I feel great to be finishing third in my home race. I have many happy memories of Michigan from going there with my father and my brother, camping in the infield, and it's a special place to me. So if there was any place I wanted to have a good result, it would be this place. So I'm feeling pretty good right now.
We can certainly hear it in your voice.
Yeah.
I can almost hear a small tear dropping to the floor as well as you.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun at Michigan. It's a neat place, and one of my best friends who lives down the street from me has a cottage out by the Irish Hills, so he's familiar with the area. And just in general, it's really nice that when you play a strategy and it works well, because I've made some dumb pit decisions over the course of this series this year, and this was in this chance I actually got it right by I only changed right side tires on the last stop and just put in enough fuel to get by, and that gave me enough of a cushion in front of Gabriel that I didn't have to worry about him chasing me, and I just cut the boost back and cruised home. So, yeah, there wasn't too much trouble in there with people who were. I mean, there was a lot of dicing that I saw. I'm just like, I don't know what you guys are doing. You're just inviting the leaders to drive away, but you can't like tap them on the shoulder in the race and say, hey, come on. The only thing I regret during the race is I had a little bit of contact with Bruno, and that was my fault because I was taking evasive action when I saw Jules Bouchard really slow on the top. And I just made a knee-jerk reaction to the left, and Bruno was there. Thankfully, it was just a slight glance. I don't think either of us had any serious damage as a result.
It's a very stressful thing to be out there with the aero effects on that. It's really great.
It's incredibly. I'm sorry to see that my Vels Parnelli Jones teammate Alberto did not finish, but at least we got one car.
I can
in
tell
the top
you I
three.
exited the track in style because if I
did you go?
I would be. I mean, like Merle Bettenhausen,
Oh, did you go? Did you go visit the barn?
Yeah.
Because that barn has had a few visits from people over the last couple of weeks. But thank you for broadcasting, Jonatan. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work. I don't know why our winner and our Tiago's in the green room. You guys should drag him in here.
I don't
He's the
have
winner.
permission, so if you
okay, I'll do it then.
Thank you.
I'll have to leave you guys now.
Okay, thank you very much, Alberto.
Just one moment to congratulate Tiago. That was a very good race, Tiago. You were lucky, I think, because I think you were using half boost for most of the race, right? You were gambling with it.
Actually, Alberto, I changed my gear rate to have like a fourth gear, very long for traffic, so I didn't want to stress the engine. And then the car was very kind in terms of handling with that gear, so there wasn't much traction.
But still, I mean, the temperatures go high, and well, as long as you are over 110 degrees, you are eating life in your engine quicker.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it was a bit of a gamble, but it paid off.
I was using full boost the whole time. Just the gear that I had to manage some fuel strategy, and in the end, I realized, okay, I'm safe distance here. I can save engine, and I can just drive safe instead of pushing.
Yeah, it was clear how the pace dropped. Anyway, I was just saying goodbye. We'll have to go now, but again, congratulations to you. Congrats again to my teammate for the third position, and it was in general a nice race.
Thank you very much for joining me for the last half of the race, Alberto.
User left your channel.
So, yeah, congratulations, Tiago, on the victory. Looked like early on in the race there was a battle on, and then the last half was quite easy. But how did you find that first half with Yannick and Jakes keeping you very close company for a large portion of that?
Yeah, I think the first half of the race was, let's say the first quarter of the race was very good in terms of racecraft. I think Cesarius made a very good job. Like, he didn't want to fight, and even if he wanted to overtake me, I would just follow him. And so we did a very good racecraft, so we could create a gap between us in the third place. So it was very, very good play there. After the first pit stop, then Jakes and Brian, we were like a little mixed, and I was going doing 36 flat, very decent pace with a full tank. And then Brian wanted to fight. It was very fun, we had a lot of fun, but I think that killed a little bit the racecraft. So the fourth place started to shrink the gap to us, but it was fun anyway. And so after that fight, I decided, I didn't want to be in that mix. So I just want to race by myself, try to take less risks. So in the second pit stop, I didn't change the inside tires, so I saved 6 seconds there, and then I wasn't anymore with Jakes and Brian, so I could just do my race and just do my pace safely, and saving the engine. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I can certainly imagine that. It's well, seemed like a complete masterclass of a race, considering how far in front you ended up. But
Yeah, in the end, I was using a little bit less throttle because I started to see people retiring, and then I was wondering, okay, maybe that's the engine giving up. So I was okay. I have 17 seconds of gap, so I'll just easy now, and I was just doing 325 in the straights, just holding the throttle and just saving the engine, just in case. We never know.
yeah, there seemed to be quite a lot of engine-related retirements just after the last pit stop.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I was watching the thing and I'm like, I wonder how much Tiago and David have stressed their engines. Let's see. And of course the smart racers that they were, they had not. One time Tiago was coming up to lap me, and I gave the car as much boost as I was comfortable doing and stressing the car, because I was waiting for that yellow to come out. I'm like, please, 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 please. But in the end, he overtook me. So it was like, all right, fine. And then I cut the boost back. But no, great drive by Tiago. Oh, and he and I are looking forward next week to racing a mutual friend of ours, Kleber Vieira, in the trucks. This should be fun. Hey, don't laugh. He's been putting in his time on the server, and he's getting faster. He's looking surprisingly good. So,
he's in the 45s already.
Yeah. So this is more his type of thing. He tried he tried Ontario a while back, and it just wasn't his cup of tea. This I thought would be a lot closer to something he'd like, especially since it's Brazilian trucks, and he seems to be enjoying it. So looking forward to next week a lot.
And so am I. It's surely going to be a lot of fun. There are trucks available for anyone interested in that.
Yeah.
So just a final question for you. Well, technically two, but obviously we have the summer break coming up. The truck race and the Belgian Grand Prix before the summer break, but then after that, the first race back in the USAC series will be the Pocono at Pocono and the Schaefer 500. How do you both reckon your chances at that particular track?
Tiago, what do you think?
I have no clue. These cars are completely different from the previous patch. I had pretty much to redo my whole setup for Michigan now, and so I have no idea how these cars will behave there.
Well, I can take a guess. I agree with Tiago that it's kind of an open book in a lot of ways, but I think we can surmise a few things based on past experience there. It is a driver's track. There's different radius corners and different banking in each corner, so you have to set up the car as a compromise. We've said that so many times. I don't think a tall gear like Tiago ran today to save the engine will work, because it'll bog down the car too much in the turns. So there's likely to be a lot more awkward traffic situations here, similar to Indianapolis and Ontario. So, but it's the last 500-mile race of the year, and the championship is very much on the line. So, I think whoever does well in this race, it's gonna be an opportunity to really stake your claim to the championship. We're closing down on the end here very quickly, even though the last race is in December.
Well, there are a lot of points still to play for, so very much so that the championship is open. I think it was 450 points covering the top 4 ahead of this particular race. So yeah, also any final thoughts on this event from your driver's point of view?
Only that people who insist that driving in circles is easy ought to try this, because it is not easy. It's very hard. not just in terms of setting up the car properly, but also in terms of maintaining your focus. It's really, really a challenge.
And what about Tiago? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, first I think I would make Jason's words mine too. I'm not a, I'm not a, I wasn't a big fan of ovals, right? It was, something that I hadn't not done prior to, ISO
Hmm.
and the other league. So it's something new to me, and I'm very surprised that there is action the whole race, so you never get bored. And the cars, as Jason mentioned, you have to be 100% focused. You have to be 100% focused. Any small daydream, it's over. It's over. So yeah, I give much more, respect for these guys who run in circles now.
I also think it was a really smart choice to introduce the adjustable boost for this race because in this series you go to the same track twice, and it adds a new dimension that we didn't have the previous race. So anybody who goes, well, and we've already run Michigan once, so we've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I'm like, well, it's not quite the same this time. So I think that was a smart move on Wilkes' part.
Certainly so, and it certainly threw up a couple of curveballs as well along the way.
I had some really close calls with people I was lapping. Just as a side note, Tiago, guess who won their first IndyCar race at Michigan? Someone that you might be interested in.
Intro.
Emerson Fittipaldi.
Emerson. Oh,
yeah, he won his very.
You can see I know history, right?
Well, his first IndyCar win was in 1985, driving for Patrick at the Michigan 500. So there's a guy who's a road course racer by trade, and his first win in IndyCars was an oval race.
Awesome.
So there you go.
That's a great tidbit to cap off this broadcast with. So thank you very much to all our racers for showing up and putting on a great show, and big congratulations to everyone who were able to finish. This was clearly a very taxing and difficult race. Also congratulations to Tiago, Dave, and obviously Jason for his hometown home track podium finish for this one.
Yeah, I got to do the points yet, so I'll hold off on the libations for a second. But
shall do. Anyway, so just to quickly remind you, next weekend on Sunday, July the 19th, we will have the Lucas Vidra Trophy Round 5, Formula Truck Santa Cruz do Sul, which will be a 2-race event with a full field reverse. So whoever finishes first in race 1 will be starting from last in race 2. Mainly to throw in a bit of a curveball and see whoever is actually the most well-rounded driver, which is one of the caveats for the Lucas Vidra Trophy. And in 2 weeks' time, on Sunday the 26th of July, Grand Prix de Belgique, broadcasted by our own Jason White, as far as I'm aware. The Belgian Grand Prix from Formula 1.
Our last race before we go on our August break.
Indeed. Formula 1 1991, round 11 of 16 of that series. That championship too is very much wide open after the Hungaroring event. But yeah, with all of that and the great action we got to see, thank you to everyone who tuned in, and I hope you all have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you back here at ISO in a couple of weeks' time with the Belgian Grand Prix. And after that, a bit of a holiday, bit of a break, and then we come back harder and stronger, most likely,
Here,
after
here.
the August break. But until 2 weeks on Sunday, have a great time, take care, and good night.